The fan-favorite Mjolnir-wielding Thor is not only the god of thunder, but also the god of riz. With his godly charm and hundreds of years of experience with women, he seems to effortlessly attract anyone and date any human, god, alien, or even his own imagination. But even among the people that Thor dated, a few were extremely powerful and could fight Thor on the battlefield as well as in bed. That's why in today's video, we will be talking about the 10 most powerful and dominating women who want to sleep with Thor Odinson. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Hela. In Earth 1610, Thor and Valkyrie were in love. When Valkyrie died, she was sent to Valhalla, which was ruled by Hela, and she kept Valkyrie as her captive. Intending to save his lover, Thor also came to Valhalla and asked Hela to release Valkyrie. Hela said she would, but only if Thor could defeat her army. Having no choice, Thor fights the monstrous army of Hela and defeats them. Hela released Valkyrie, but kept Thor in Valhalla. After some time, Thor was frustrated and asked if there was a way he could return to Earth, and Hela said yes. She demanded that Thor impregnate her and give her a baby boy, because she always wanted a boy heir to her throne. Thus, Modi Thorson was born. When Modi became an adult, he went to Earth and started a civil war in America with the goal of establishing a new Asgard after the people of America destroyed themselves. His plans were ruined by Steve Rogers, who became president and unified America. Modi was hell-bent on destroying America, so he used a mind control stone to control the Hydra army and started preparing for a war. Thor eventually intercepted him, but he couldn't recognize his own son and mistook him for Loki. But Modi used his mind control stone and started controlling Thor. Later, Steve Rogers broke Modi's stone, and Thor had to reluctantly kill his own son. SheHulk. Even though many people didn't like the SheHulk series, it can be arguably said that SheHulk is one of the strongest characters in Marvel Comics. SheHulk and Thor also dated for a brief period in the comics. In the Final Host storyline, Thor and SheHulk travel to Asgard to seek answers from Odin about the origins of the Dark Celestials and how to defeat them. Odin then guides them to a powerful weapon stored in the secret chamber of the giant Ymir, but the weapon is wrapped in freezing snow and ice. The intensity of this cold is unbearable for Thor, even after he becomes a god. But surprisingly, SheHulk can withstand this cold because of her gamma radiation and retrieves the weapon to defeat the Dark Celestials. Thor eventually freezes and faints because of the intensity of the cold, and SheHulk kisses him to bring him back to life and keep him quote-unquote hot. Thor later takes Jennifer on a date to Savage Island. Like all her relationships, Jennifer is confused about whether Thor likes Jennifer or SheHulk. Although they never publicly accept their relationship, in many comic panels, they are seen kissing and doing all sorts of things that couples do. However, their relationship was considered weird by comic book fans. Thus, their love story was essentially forgotten, and Thor and SheHulk went on their own paths. Enchantress. Enchantress, or Amora, is considered the goddess of magic in Marvel Comics, and often appears as an evil god in Thor comics. Amora was always in love with Thor, but she was confused about whether she loved Thor for his nature or because of the power he represented. Odin always resented Jane Foster because Thor was a god and was deeply in love with Jane, who is just a mere mortal. So Odin gave Amora the task of seducing Thor, but she failed at it repeatedly. When Thor was sent down to Earth by Odin during an event, he willingly sought refuge in Amora because she was also trapped on Earth. The two started dating, which lasted until Thor was killed during a battle with Onslaught. After this event, they moved apart and have not dated since. In Earth 3515, the Asgardians have taken over the Earth. Thor and Amora are married on this Earth, and they have a son named Magni Thorson, often called the God of strength. Being the god of strength, Magni Thorson is often portrayed as more powerful than Thor himself. When Magni grew up, he started resenting his father for his cruel ways, and Thor had a change of heart. Thor traveled back in time, warned the young Thor about the events that would happen in the future, and asked him not to be like him, which erased everything that had transpired, including Magni Thorson. Sif. In the movies, Lady Sif is portrayed as only a friend to Thor, but in the comics, Lady Sif is Thor's first love interest. Their romance kindled when Thor sacrificed himself to save Sif from Hela. Thor and Sif dated for a long time until Thor came to Earth and became a superhero. Thor fell in love with Jane Foster on Earth and forgot about Lady Sif. Odin, being a conventional father, hated the idea of Thor marrying a mortal, so he asked Jane Foster to go through a test, and if she fails, all her memories of Thor will be erased. Eventually, Jane fails the test, and Odin erases her memory. Thor was deeply sad because of this incident, but Odin arranged a marriage between Lady Sif and Thor. But things didn't last long because Thor still had feelings for Jane, and they eventually parted ways and stayed as best friends. Valkyrie. Thor's relationship with Valkyrie in the comics has been really weird. In the 616 universe, Thor was sent to Earth by Odin himself with the mortal identity of Sigmund. As Sigmund, Thor fell in love with Brunhilde, the original Valkyrie. Odin later decides to kill Sigmund, but Brunhilde helps Sigmund's wife escape and protects her. When Odin is notified of Brunhilde's betrayal, he removes her from Valkyrie's position and sends her into a trance. Later, Brunhilde was saved by Siegfried, the son of Sigmund, and the mortal reincarnation of Thor. Realizing that he is Thor, Brunhilde engages in a passionate relationship with him. However, it didn't last long, and Siegfried was killed. Unable to bear the loss of her lover, Brunhilde decides to commit suicide. Odin then revives both Valkyrie and Thor and erases their memories to remove any love they feel for each other. Jane Foster. Most MCU fans would be well versed in Thor's relationship with Jane Foster, but in the comics, their relationship is a bit different. In the comics, Thor was more like Superman. He had an alter ego called Donald Blake, a great surgeon, and Donald could turn into Thor whenever he wanted. Donald was basically Clark Kent of Marvel Comics, timid, shy, and not so manly. Jane Foster used to work as a nurse for Donald, and she kind of liked Donald, but considered him a dork. Eventually, she fell in love with Thor, who was more manly than Donald. Thor wanted Jane to become a god too, because then they could be together, as he was afraid of his father's disapproval of his relationship with a mortal. Like he feared, his father disapproved of his relationship with Jane and erased her memories. But that didn't stop Thor and Jane from dating, as Thor and Jane have had an on and off relationship in Marvel Comics. Jane Foster is Thor's most notable love interest, thanks to the MCU. Later in the comics, Jane Foster also goes on to become the God of Thunder after she becomes worthy of Mjolnir. Moondragon. Moondragon is the estranged daughter of Drax, the Destroyer. Although in the movies it is seen that Drax is an alien, in the comics, Drax is a human named Arthur Douglas. When Thanos visits Earth, he kills Arthur and his daughter Heather. After his death, Arthur's soul was sent inside a humanoid body, later known as Drax the Destroyer, and Heather was taken by the Eternal Mentor and raised on the planet Titan. She went on to become a capable psychic with the powers of telepathy and mind control. She uses her mind control powers on Thor during an event and repeatedly does the deed with him. This can basically be termed sexual assault because Thor was only having sex with her because he was mind controlled, and he had no consent to the act. Later, Thor breaks free from Moondragon's mind control with the help of Drax the Destroyer, and this is one of the worst things that Thor has ever endured. Laureli. In the Marvel Comics, Laureli is the sister of the Enchantress. Loki was always looking for ways to throw Thor's life into chaos. He knew about Laureli's unrequited love for Thor and gave her the elixir of Lofen, which, if smelled by Thor, would make him madly in love with Laureli. So Laureli uses the elixir on Thor, and he falls in love with Laureli and they start dating. However, the Enchantress is not happy with this turn of events, and she casts casts a spell on Laureli to make her fall in love with Loki. Heimdall realized Thor was not in love with Laureli, but was under a magic spell cast by her. So he asks Thor to visit Loki's chamber, knowing that Thor would catch Loki and Laureli making out. Thor becomes furious when he sees Loki and Laureli together and realizes he is under a spell. Thor threatens Loki to release him from the spell or he'll kill him. Loki reluctantly lets Thor go. Eventually, Loki becomes frustrated with Laureli's love and decides to leave her. Barbara Norris, Valkyrie of Earth 1610. Barbara Norris is the Valkyrie of the Ultimate Universe, which is also referred to as Earth 1610. She was a powerless 19-year-old girl who wanted to become a superhero. That's why she joined a team called the Defenders. The Defenders were a team of wannabe superheroes without any substantial powers or skills. She was introduced with the alias Thor Girl because she was a big fan of the mighty god of thunder. Later down the line, she was given superpowers and became the Valkyrie of this universe. After becoming Valkyrie, she started dating Thor Odinson, who was already single after his breakup with Jane Foster. When Valkyrie was killed in a battle, her soul was sent to Valhalla, where Hela trapped her. Thor then travels to Hela's dimension and frees Valkyrie by sacrificing himself. Although Hela released Valkyrie, she didn't want any of it without Thor and returned the favor by taking her place in Hela's dimension and sending Thor Odinson back to Earth. Dark Valkyrie. Dark Valkyrie first appeared when Thor wallowed in self-pity and thought about his father's unjust actions against him. She introduced herself as a Valkyrie and Thor confided in her, telling her everything about his father and how he mistreated him. Right about then, Thor was supposed to be married to Lady Sif, but he broke up his wedding and started dating Dark Valkyrie. The Dark Valkyrie soon started manipulating Thor to stop serving his father and Asgard and only listen to himself. After brainwashing Thor multiple times, she was successful in making him fight his own allies, like Sif and Beta Ray Bill. Later, it was revealed that Dark Valkyrie was not a real person, but a manifestation of Thor's madness. Moondragon tried to help Thor and banish this manifestation, but instead, she brought this being to life by giving it a physical form. Dark Valkyrie then manipulated Thor into fighting Odin and the Infinity Watch. Later, the Dark Valkyrie was merged with Thor's psyche, and Thor regained his sanity. Marvelous verdict. It is clear from this list that Thor has a Rhizometer ranking that is very high, even when compared to other Playboys in Marvel Comics. And we think it won't be long before we introduce Thor as Playboy, the strongest Avenger, and the God of Thunder. The fact that most of the women Thor had dated were extremely powerful women with exceptional strength and combat experience makes Thor's achievement genuinely remarkable. We still haven't seen Thor's charm in its full glory in the MCU, and have only seen him have one love interest, Jane Foster. But with Jane's death in Love and Thunder, Thor can now look for a new love interest. But we don't think it would be that easy for Thor because now he has a girl to take care of. With the rumors that Thor 5 is in the making, we really hope to see a fresh pairing with Thor. With that being said, if you like our content, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.